All right, welcome to the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast, January 24th here, 2020, Sunday morning. We're freezing. All of us are just, you could probably just tell, we're all like just freezing right now. It's the elements. We're fighting the Northern California elements. No snow or anywhere, but Casey, you're in 30-degree weather, I think. Tyler, you're in a, 75-degree house. So, yeah, it's cold there. And I'm in a 50-degree garage, but we march forward here. We
sound
go
like
on
real wimps.
Well, that's what people say about California, especially the California people. Maybe we've been here too long. I'm 36. That's all I know. So anyways, we'll just continue. We'll continue with the podcast. I know a lot of people fight fires and stuff like that. This is hard during these elements. So we're going to continue though. We're going to, what's up guys? Tyler, I kind of heard you a little bit on Twitter last night, kind of complaining about not getting the McGregor fight. We tried to get it here and, we couldn't get it, so we didn't end up buying it. So I'm just curious, how did it go? Tell everybody.
Well, we missed the first two. We missed the first two fights, and then got the co-main and the main event, the 155-pounders. The new guy from Bellator, he looked great. Chandler looks like he's a little roided out, but we'll see how that goes. But you might get a shot at a belt against Poirier if Khabib leaves, and then McGregor he didn't look right. I was so disappointed. And
I mean, you're the UFC guy.
What?
Go ahead. Okay, yeah.
And his reaction afterward, saying, "Oh, I'm still happy." Like, what do you mean you're happy? You just you got knocked out.
Well, now somebody, the thing with the UFC though is like these guys are at least fighting though, right? Like they're going like you kind of just want to see him be more like the old school McGregor. He seems like he's kind of
I don't want him to be over the top and like throwing chairs and water bottles. I don't need that. But like WWE stuff, I just want you to not be okay with losing.
Yeah, it seems like fighting's that one sport like you could, you just lose, you can get humbled so quickly. You know what I mean? And it can be kind of like such an ego check probably, I think, with boxing. You know what I mean? Like it's just I think you seem invincible at the moment when you're winning and you got the belt and then you don't have that belt anymore. I gotta think like mentally that is something. It's somebody that will never experience that feeling, feeling like you could just kick anybody's butt at any time. I don't know. That's always a weird thing with fighting for me. So in case I know you didn't watch the fight last night, you're not the biggest UFC guy, so I'm not going to waste your time with the question over there with the McGregor. But I know you can relate to Tyler's thing about not getting the fight on time when you buy for it. That would be frustrating. Did you buy it ahead of time?
Yeah, I bought it like 3 hours ahead of time.
You probably were like, "What the?"
I was pissed. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll get my money back for it if I complain enough, but.
So how many fights are actually on a main card?
I'm just gonna be like, the girl was my brother's wife. That's why I wanted to watch it, not because of McGregor. This is bull.
Well, I bet there's
There's 5 fights.
And I heard it was happening in like other areas too. Like Hannah looked it up. It was like she's like, it's actually happening like all over. It's like happening in like Boise and like all these other random cities. I was like, oh man, Dana White's gonna be firing a lot of people today. He's gonna be going crazy. I said,
it's mostly ESPN.
Yeah, well, he's gonna be chewing out somebody at ESPN. That's for sure at some point. All right, let's get into what we probably all know a little bit more about.
The meat and potatoes.
The meat and potatoes of what actually we know a little bit. What we're here for is NFL this week, Championship Sunday week. We've been doing the podcast now for since April. We kind of get through the COVID season. Now we're like to the kind of the part we kind of dreamed about when we first did the podcast. Championship Sunday. We got big games here on tap. Both our dads. Come on, we need to listen. I love our fathers. They're honest. So let's we want to entertain you, Dad. So come on, bring it. I dare you to listen a little bit this week. Or even I dare you to come on even more and talk about it. That's what I say that to both our dads. So that's my challenge before we get started to both our pops. All right, Brady Rodgers. Let's get into it. It's funny to me they both grew up Niners fans. They're both kind of in the Northern California. I mean, Jared Goff, the Northern California quarterbacks, people. I mean, show a little respect. The good weather. We can pass the ball here. What was it? Brady? I saw Brady's a 3-time MVP. Rodgers is a 2-time MVP. And then you look at the other stats of the playoffs, and it's just I mean, Brady just, like everything he does, he blows everybody out of the water. Tyler, to me, this is, I like the Chiefs-Bills game, but this is the most intriguing one to me. You had a lot of good things to say about Rodgers last week. It feels like a big game for him, obviously. Who you liking, and what are you looking for from the Pack to kind of get over the hump against Casey's Buccaneers?
I mean, I think the Packers are going to have to be able to run the ball. Aaron Jones is going to have to loosen things up so Rodgers can get going with Adams and Lazard. But I still like the Bucs to win. I don't bet against Brady. So
It's just that simple.
Maybe I have, but not to win a game straight up in the NFC or any championship game. 14 years of championship games for Brady. It's unbelievable.
Doesn't it mean anything, though, Case, that the Packers were up 10-0 to start the last time they played? I know the Packers kind of blew them out early in the season, but the Packers, it kind of felt like a fluke a little bit. If you kind of like, they had that game on like a 30-minute rewatch, so I kind of rewatched it before, and like it happened so fast. I kind of forgot, like the Packers were up 10-0, and then like Rodgers throws an interception and the game changes. So I know you've been on the Bucs all year. Kind of bring it back full circle for us. Where do you think how the game plays out, and how Brady leads them? Because I know that's who you're going to probably pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rolling with the Bucs. I mean, I just don't think you can go wrong with the greatest of all time. I mean, he just always seems to come up just so clutch, and whatever he does, he just has a little Midas touch to it. Always a little magic to it. And then, I mean, if you rewatch that first game, like you said, I mean, they were up 10-0, and then Aaron Rodgers did 3 pelvic thrusts, and maybe that got him a little upset. Kind of copied in Dominican Sue. And then threw a pick six, and then almost threw another pick six, and the guy ended up on the 1, and then pretty much went downhill from there. But I mean, if you look at the trend of this playoff, like these last games, like every team basically in the regular season that had beat the team in the playoffs when they face each other, like Tennessee and Baltimore, Baltimore,
they all came back.
Yeah, the Bills, and then the Saints and the Bucs. So I mean, it's hard to beat a team that many times, during a season, but I'm just stoked to watch the matchup. Rodgers, I think it's more important for him to win this game than Brady, obviously. I think 2 MVPs put him over, or not 2 MVPs, excuse me. If he gets 2 Super Bowl rings, put him a notch ahead of Brett Favre. I think that's something that he really wants to, because he's received some pretty good criticism from Favre, but Favre's kind of come back around a little bit, but I think it'd be nice if he could just pull it off. But I do want the Bucs to win, though.
It kind of made me think when you said that. I could see Rodgers, like when they retire his number at like the Ring of Honor. He's like, no, I don't want my name next to Brett Favre. I want it above him. Like, I don't even like they usually just put it to the side. He's like, no, I'll just take it like right above it. I can see him like doing that. Like, I'll do that. I'm good with that. I am number 1 on the depth chart, Mr. Brett Favre. There, I'm going to be right above you. I'm going to be even more of an ass. What was that?
Did you get Aaron Rodgers after party where he's telling Brett Favre how his ass tastes? Like Shaq.
Yeah, exactly. I can also see Aaron Rodgers inviting Brett Favre and then kicking him out 10 minutes later. That's also what I can see him doing as well.
Give him a gift bag with copper belt and some Wranglers.
Yeah, exactly. To me, the game is a little bit more. It's going to be. I think it's going to come down to the wire a little bit. I don't think though the Bucs are necessarily as good as making it to the championships. I feel like the Packers have more of the momentum. They've had the buys. Rodgers is playing at just a really high level. And even Brady, when he was playing in last week, like he managed the game really well. But I mean, like in the first half, he was throwing, I think he was averaging like 3.7 yards a throw. And it wasn't anything like really special. I just kind of felt like he managed the game. And then that Cook fumble changed everything too. So I don't know. I mean, that's just what happens in football. So I didn't think like Brady overly like carried them to this win or something like that. So I still feel like Rodgers has more of like that playmaking ability to do that stuff. So we'll see what happens.
The one thing that Tom Brady doesn't do in the postseason, though, he never puts his team behind. Like he never turns the ball over. So he always gives his team a chance.
No, you're right. He does. And now at this point, that's what he's kind of doing. He's like the ultimate game man. There's like no better one now than that. All right. So Tyler, you got the Packers, it sounds like? Or are you going with the Bucs?
I got the Bucs.
You're still going with the Bucks. All right, I'm going with the Packers. Casey, you're going with the Bucks. Let's see if you can get one half of your Super Bowl pick right. At least one of you. At least you would have it correct. So good luck with that today. So let's get to the AFC Championship game. This is like the Young Bucks now. We went from the old geezers to now the Young Buck quarterbacks to two. Well, obviously Mahomes and Allen kind of being the surprise, but the way he's playing this year just makes it seem like he's going to be a top 5 quarterback for a while. But I guess we'll see what happens. Mahomes had that concussion. He gets almost like choke slam looking back at the replay. Like it was kind of a weird tackle. I kind of thought it was his knee at first, like the way he landed. Yeah, he just kind of went right to the ground there. It was like, and the way he got up, I was like, oh, that's not good. That can't be a good sign. And so he knew he probably wasn't coming back, and sure he wasn't. And then during the week, I kind of was like, there's no way the NFL is not having Mahomes play. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I still don't trust this concussion protocol when it comes down to it. Like, could you actually see them say I just can't see it. I don't know what it is. Like in a big game like that, I don't think that. I'd be curious if a Super Bowl, does that concussion protocol, does it get stretched a little bit more when it comes to the main guys, or does the Aaron Donalds of the world sit out more? So I don't know. Does anybody pick that up this week on the concussion thing, or is it BS? Might just be negative.
That's probably a little BS. I can't imagine. Like, the player wants to play. The team wants him to play, and they're not just gonna have some tests that you don't even know if it's fully gonna help anything really. It helps to sit out longer, but one time, do you really know if it's gonna be a beneficiary to his life in the long run? You don't know.
I think the concussion protocol works really well during the games, as soon during the game when they get the concussion. And I love Jim Nantz, and he's like, well, if that's not a concussion, I don't know what one is. I mean, he couldn't even get up. He was just searching for people, bodies to hold on. So in that regard, I think it works really well. But after 4 or 5 days, especially superstars, I think you're going to get a little bit more leeway, especially when it comes to a championship game. If it was week 4, they probably would hold them out another week, would be my guess. But I don't know. When it comes to these big games, it's a once in a chance lifetime. And as someone that's had my fair share of concussions, as a player, you're I've been knocked out cold, and you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm ready to go, coach. And you're can't even find where you're going. But that's where you got to rely on other people and be like, no, man, you're not good, bro. You need to chill out for a whole week. And usually, even that's 10 years ago, and 5 days a week was protocol. I mean, they didn't do fancy tests like that. They just said, name your ABCs backwards.
That was also high school, though, where
exactly.
Tests with the NFL.
Yeah. On YouTube, they have these videos of football highlights of it's usually from the 80s or 90s of players that went back into the game because they didn't really check these guys, and they're showing what they actually did on the next play, and you're just and they're all basically out of it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of sad almost watching it. You're this guy actually played fullback on this next possession. He wasn't even alive. I think you know what I mean? It's just it's crazy to think about but. Did you guys ever see the movie The Junction Boys? With it was an ESPN
film. Movie?
Yeah, it was I think it was about Paul Bear, Texas A&M or
Paul
something.
Bear.
Paul Bear Bryant. Paul Bear Bryant. Is that his name?
Paul Bear Bryant. There's no Paul.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was Paul Bear Bryant. That's the fat wrestling guy, huh?
Yeah. Paul Bear's the fat wrestling guy.
That's good. Because I always thought his name was Paul Bear Bryant, but I think
it might be his real name. I don't know that.
Which would be even funnier if that was his real name. My guess is it's not
Undertaker's
that's great. I guess my point is it's not the Junction Boys anymore, where these guys are going out the coaches are hitting them every day, and then having to come back to practice and all this crazy
not giving
stuff.
them any water.
So, anyways, I thought the concussion protocol is still BS. That's my main point about it. Chiefs are 3-point favorites at home. Over is 54. Tyler, I have a feeling maybe you kind of want the Bills to win, but yeah, let's go with the spread part of it. So give me who you want to win. Give me what your reasons are. Who do you like?
I want the Bills to win just because I have a past with former teams that I enjoyed watching. Do I think they're going to win? No, I don't. The defense just isn't up to snuff. Where I think if Mahomes is healthy and doesn't play like he's concussed, we'll take advantage of a weak defense. So I have the Chiefs. And I'd really love to see a Mahomes Brady Super Bowl.
I guess when you say that, Case, did you get the same tone from Tyler where it was more like, well, I want the Bills to win, but like he kind of has that same tone every week with the favorites where he's like, well, I kind of want them to win, but I got to go with the favorite. And the main reason, let's be honest, is Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's just like everybody else. That's why, right? Yeah. I'm assuming that's the reason. Case.
Yeah, but
Who do you like?
I like the Chiefs. I just think they're too talented. I mean, their offense is explosive. If that's all banking on if Mahomes stays healthy for the full game.
And his knee, right? He has got a messed up knee, I heard too, or foot. Is it his ankle? I read one of those too. And he kind of like one of his feet ligaments were not good, and that's not good if you play quarterback. So maybe that might slow him down too if he takes a couple hits there.
Yeah, it was his plant leg, his right foot. He was already walking on it pretty gingerly when he left the game after that concussion. But I just think the Chiefs have too much. Andy Reid, man, that guy's just a genius. He's really, I would like to say, come into his own, but he's been in the league forever. But now it's kind of like, how do I say this? He just doesn't give a you-know-what right now. He's like, I'm going to go for it. I don't care. He's got all the confidence in the world. He's got the best player in the NFL. So he's just like, I'm going to roll with it. And I'm going to I got Tyreek Hill. I got the fastest player in the league. I got the best tight end in the league. I mean, you got so many weapons. It's just, it's unguardable at times. I mean,
that was such a good Sandlot play, Case, where he just like literally where you're like, all right, you're faster than anybody on the field, run right. You're like,
yeah, it wasn't even a play. I mean, they called a speed option, but I mean, it was basically just like, run as fast as you can to the sideline.
Yes.
Chad Henne, just don't fuck up and throw it at him, near him. You'll get the first down.
Please throw it 5 yards successfully. So we will go to the next round. Well, the thing with Andy Reid too, I was like, I wonder if he would have gone for some of those if he hadn't won that Super Bowl last year. Like, was he feeling a little bit better? Like, was with the monkey off the back? Could he just kind of let it go a little bit more? I wonder if the pressure would have changed his decisions at all. And so that's kind of where I kind of was fascinated with some of the psychology of that stuff. Like, he's probably like, you're right. I'm feeling good. I don't have anything to lose as much this year. I got the Super Bowl, and yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you're a little bit riskier when you're on top like that. So, but he is kind of known for a kind of a gunslinger anyways, but man, he is incredible with some of those like guts to go for it. And I think the Chiefs did well on that play is like, it kind of even fooled Romo, and Romo's not easy to fool. He's pretty good at it. He's like, oh, look at their body language. They're looks like they're going to sit there. And then he throws it. He's like, oh my God. Like, it was kind of funny to hear Romo's reaction. Because did you notice that? He kind of thought it too.
Yeah, he definitely thought they were going to call timeout.
So you're doing something right when you're doing that. All right. Well, I kind of like I'm going to go with the Bills this game. I'm going with them, obviously, to cover the +3. I think it's going to be an over game at 54 too. So I expect it to be I expect one of the teams to get 30 and one of the other ones to get the high 20. So I'm going to take the Bills to pull the offset. They're the upset, and I'm going to say, Tyler, we get the Thurman Thomases and the Bruce Smiths come out of the woodworks, and the Jim Kellys, the Andre Reids in the world, and they'll show those old highlights of the Bills beating the Raiders 55-3.
And Marcellus Wiley.
Thurman Thomas not being able to find his helmet in the Super Bowl.
Always a classic clip there. All right. Anything else you guys got on the NFL actually, I did have a couple other things about the NFL this week I wanted to get into. Not on the games, anyways. The games are over with. Just real quick. I wanted to do a few other questions, but let's just stay with the ones I kind of like the most here. I saw Stafford from the Lions. They weren't going to keep him. I think none of us were surprised about that. Just real quick, where do you think he might end up? We talked about Watson. Watson sounds like he wants the Jets and Dolphins. So we kind of talked about him being a good fit on the Niners. So do you think Stafford ends up on the Niners? Do you think he ends up on like the Colts? Or Steelers team, like, just give me a team you think Stafford ends up on. T will let you hit that one first.
I'll guess the Washington football team.
That's not bad. That would be a good one, actually.
I don't know where he's
about
going to end up. They need a quarterback. I think he's played in the NFC his whole career. I think he has a comfort.
That's a
comfortableness.
We'll say that again. I think you're cutting out of it now.
Comfortableness.
I'm saving. You're cutting out. You're cutting out. That's what you're doing. You're cutting out.
They're playing. So I think I'll play for the football team.
That's a good call there, and he's kind of a tough SOB, like Rivera kind of is. Like, people don't think of Stafford always like that, but I think the last couple of years he's even more because he just is always playing hurt. Case, where do you kind of think he might end up, or maybe a good fit, anyways?
I mean, Tyler took my first option there, so I was kind of thinking the same thing. They got $30+ million in cap, and all they really need is they got a bunch of good young players coming up, and they just need a quarterback to solidify that position. And I think they could win the East.
Maybe I was thinking the Raiders, maybe.
They won it this year, so.
He wants to win. The only other team I thought about that would be
he wants to win. Well, so does Gruden. It's like 10th year. Come on, let's go, buddy.
I think a good team, actually, I think he'd be an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo.
I agree.
Well, yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure. And how about the Colts? I was thinking the Colts without Rivers anymore.
He has the most passing touchdowns in NFL history without making a playoff appearance. He's got 282 passing touchdowns.
He never made the playoffs, not one time.
Yeah, no. He lost to the Saints that one year in the wild card round. Remember early on? Yeah, when they had Calvin. Yeah, he was in that. That was early on, and it was that was early on when they played that. He made that one time. But your whole point holds true. Is the Lions have a way of doing it. There's certain franchises and they don't win. They are one of them. And maybe it's because they keep hiring other Dan Campbell's of the world, that are wanting to bite kneecaps instead of wanting to actually produce maybe a good fundamental thing. So we'll see what's going to happen with Mr. Campbell. That was quite a introduction speech there. All right, next NFL question here I got for you guys, and last one, by the way. Tyler, you probably have some really good ones here because your team's been a little bit more successful than me and Casey's. But what's your favorite championship weekend moment? I feel like this is, the other games are important. I like the divisional round usually the most. Now this year, maybe now I'm going to change it to the wild card with all the games during the day. But the championship football Sunday, that's, there's some that's the cream of the crop usually. So give me a couple moments that stick out to you. I
mean, you say that I've had more success with my team, but the one that rings the loudest is the loss to Seattle with the lead to the boom. And what's his name? Sherman tried to shake Crabtree's hand after batting the ball to Malcolm Smith, I believe.
To Michael Crabtree.
Yeah, when he tried to shake Michael Crabtree's hand and starts yelling at the woman reporter, just nonsense. I was like, what is going on? It's WWF. And,
were you pissed after that, watching that? Watching
it, I was pissed at the play. I was like, why are you
a fade route to Crabtree?
The first thing I said is, let Sherman side, you idiot. What are you doing? We haven't thrown over there all game. And then he makes a great play, batting it up so the linebacker can run back and track it down. I was like, this is crazy. And then when he was yelling, I was like, this guy's a psycho. I don't not even
just emotional.
Stanford, this guy is crazy.
Man, I think Crabtree knew had bad past if he was getting that emotional about it. They got into it, but definitely before that. I just remember that game. That game sticks out to me for two reasons. How hard they hit in that game was unreal because those defenses were at the top of they could be. And then I also remember Kaepernick playing unreal in that second half, kind of getting the Niners just back into the game with his legs and stuff like that. My championship moment I'm going with, I'll throw the Niners one in there for you when they beat the Cowboys in '94. That was a big game. I remember being 10 years old and the Niners couldn't get over the Cowboys, and they finally did with Stephen Young there. So that was a big game. And then the best one for me, I just so was pissed about it because I wanted to see the Broncos versus the Vikings, was the Falcons. Those idiots, they upset the Vikings, and I was so pissed about it. I was like, oh my gosh, this was going to be an epic Super Bowl with a 15-1 Vikings team against 13-3 back-to-back, possibly going for a championship Broncos team. And I was like, then we get a big fat dud in the Super Bowl like we were expecting with the Falcons in there. So I just remember that being a great game, and Gary Anderson and all that garbage.
Really blew it.
Casey, got a championship game you remember? Or
Only one that comes to mind, and the only one that I've seen in my lifetime for the Raiders. So just them making it to the Super Bowl against the Bucks, even though they got their ass whooped. But just, I don't know, just being able to like celebrate an actual like AFC title was like, I never thought I'd actually see it. And then, I mean, you want to win,
and
the
you
Super
never will
Bowl.
again.
Not at this rate. No, it's a flip of the coin between the A's and the Raiders right now.
Maybe we're the Lions. Maybe the Raiders are worse than the Lions now. Is that possible? Maybe the Lions are actually better.
That's very possible.
I mean, like, if you think back to it, right? I mean, the last 20 years, I think the Lions have actually like probably been more entertaining.
Sure, our last playoff quarterback was Connor Cook. I mean, granted, Derek Carr broke his foot, but I mean, and then Matt McGloin, Connor Cook. I was like, man, this is not a good 1-2 tandem to start your playoff like aspirations.
That's why it doesn't even feel like a playoff appearance, because you got big Connor and McGloin in there. It's like might as well have just been a playoff miss at that point.
They would have been better off having the guy from Denver this year, the guy that didn't even play quarterback.
I don't know about that, but
could have ran some sweeps or something.
Yeah, exactly. Just grab the pound.
What round was the Shannon Sharp slant pass against the Raiders?
That was 2000.
Divisional?
That was the round before. That was the AFC Championship. No.
Yeah, that was when fat ass Tony Saragusa belly flopped on Rich Gannon.
I'm wrong about that. That was 2 years before that, because
I'm not sure what round.
Oh, it happened in the championship round.
It was the championship round?
Yeah, that was to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That might be my most memorable moment.
Tony Saragossa, the slant. Oh gosh, that slant. And then Shannon Sharp being arrogant as he is. That's how it went. All right, that's the NFL for the week. We'll end it on that crappy note, I guess. Apparently, on Shannon Sharp's stupid slant there. All right, you guys got anything else? We good on NFL? Right?
Well, the NFL is getting ripped for not hiring any African American coaches, but they did hire a Muslim.
Bring that up. Good. I'm glad you didn't forget that. Say that they did. I love.
They did hire a Muslim.
Yes, they did with that. Gosh, the name. Tell me the defensive coordinator. Saleh. Yeah. To the Jets. Is there any hires that did stick out? I'm glad you brought up that as well, because the hiring and the black coaches, because it's kind of funny to me in a way, not funny, sad, I guess, in a way, how every offseason it's always like, yeah, we're gonna this Rooney rule and we're gonna improve it, and I'm like, you're not gonna improve it, and like, you're a white owner, you're probably going to hire a white coach. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is, like, or like they mask it with these like GMs, or I mean, I've never seen more defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators be hired that are black. So like, I don't get that. Like, it feels, you can see why there would be tension in that area. Like, even as a white guy, it's like, it's like kind of hard to like just ignore, but it's like, there is you do have this like a factor for it. And like, I don't know. Maybe it like comes down to like what Ice Cube said, and I'm just throwing it out there. This is what out of his mouth is part of
the real intelligent, articulate Ice Cube.
He is. I trust what he has to say. I mean, he does own a lot of businesses. He's like, the money kind of follows that kind of stuff, and he's kind of said that is like, if you look at like they need more owners. They need, what I mean. Like, that's what I don't know what else to say. That's what he kind of said is like, that's how it works. Is like, the more money we have. And I kind of appreciated him saying that, because it was like blunt in a sense, and like, and maybe in that sad way, that's kind of how our society works. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about the coaches, and how does that even change like the hirings case? I'll let you go with that.
I saw the statistic, and I'll just start off with that. And I thought it was just, I was like, well, you wonder how anything's going to change. It's not going to change. Since like, I think 2000 to present day, there's been roughly, I don't have the exact statistic, but it's roughly about 350 head coaches have been hired. 40 of those have been blacks. It's not a very good percentage.
Since how long, you said?
Since 2000, so like 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. Like,
no, that's insane.
For head coach, right?
Yeah, for head coach. So,
but it's funny to me how that doesn't happen for that's why I'm saying, like, that's where something's wrong, is because these guys continue to get hired to be like, or what I'm saying, you black guys can continue to get hired to be like defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators, like the guy for the Chiefs should probably get a shot over like maybe somebody else too. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I hear you, but go ahead, T.
The guy on the
And then
Chiefs,
we'll go back.
I think it hurts him that his team keeps winning and going deep into playoffs. If people want to get their coach in early, like
I do agree with that.
Wait, I mean, it hurts him, but yeah, you could. I mean, in the long run, is 2 weeks really the end of the world? Probably not.
And there's probably enough good coaches out there where, like, you know, the Dennis Allens in the world don't need to get a first shot over some other people too. You know, like that's.
You say the black people are being offensive coordinators and defense. I think that's more of a head coach's decision, where it's not the owner making the decision of who he's hiring. So, and I think head coaches are more open to than these 80-year-old owners who hopefully die out soon, and we get some
more diversity in that area.
Open-minded thinking.
Yeah, but the hard part is when they die out, their sons take over or their daughter.
I mean,
hopefully some of their sons aren't as old school and bigotry in some of those areas there. You know what I mean? Not always business dollar first, and not thinking thinking a little bit more like about people's like feelings a little bit in a sense like that, and being more fair with the hiring process.
It's like to be fair. If you look deep into my family ancestry, I bet it's not pretty. Like my family's from the South. I'm sure there's a lot of like bad things, but I'm not like that. So like you're saying their sons are taking over. Hopefully there's some growth in thinking.
Hopefully they evolve and they're a little bit more transparent and understanding, like, the world that we're living in nowadays. But although when you say that, what world are we living in? Like, I mean, look at these past 4 years. I don't know if it got better. I mean, yeah, the strive for improvement and betterness of each other as a whole, we're trying, but really, how far have we come? And that's the sad part.
How much are we really trying?
And that's the other part too, is that, but I think we are, but I think we have I'm going to give up when we go to the Hank Aaron part. I'm going to show you something that we have slightly evolved. Like, yes, we have. If you go back 80 years, it's slightly better, than it was, but it doesn't mean that it's great or anything like that. I'm just saying sometimes it just moves slower than it should. And, that's the problem, is like, it seems like something like easy, like, be nice to everybody. You're like, but treat your neighbor as you'd want to be treated. But unfortunately, as we get older, that's not how it works. Tyler, I'm glad you brought that up. I totally was gonna forget that. That led to a pretty good conversation there. So, I think as three white guys, we're not arrogant enough to say like, oh, it's not spread out enough. You need to do a better job, NFL, and these other leagues as well, and being a little bit more diversified with your hiring. So get to it. All right, that would be important. All right, guys, let's take a break there in the NFL. We got some good games this week. Enjoy them. We'll be back with the NBA segment here to wrap it up. All right, we're back with the NBA part of the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast. Gentlemen, a lot to get into this week with the NBA. The thing caught my attention the most was the TNT crew. Always the TNT crew. They somehow just are able during the NBA season. That's when you know you're good at your job, is they stay relevant every week usually, or at least every month, with some sort of comment or outlandish comment. And this week, of course, there's no different. Shaq was in the news, and the crew guys I think Shaq was really harsh on Harden about the trade and how he kind of gave up on the city of Houston. And then there's an interview this week with Mitchell after a game where I think they crushed the Nuggets, or didn't crush them, but they came back and won by 10 against the Pelicans. And he asked them like, in a Shaq type way, basically, I'd like to see more out of you. I think that's kind of what he got to. It is like Donovan's like, well, yeah,
all right,
beep you, and I'll keep proving you wrong. So it was a little awkward there, but in the Twitter world, everybody blew it up a little bit, and it became a kind of a story, because it was like these guys again are being too harsh on the younger generation, and they're not being kind of respectful. And if anything, they're kind of making it harder on them and stuff like that. And it makes me think back, first of all, to the Warriors like 5 years ago, where they kind of did the same thing to them, right? They kind of picked up the Warriors, kind of were the team that they kind of went out a little bit. And in some ways, I think it kind of fueled them a little bit during some of those runs, just, especially at the beginning, those first 2 years of the dynasty. Charles was especially hard on the Warriors. So I don't know, like, that's kind of who they are. And in some ways I kind of appreciate now as I keep kind of getting older, because I think Ryan Rosillo had a tweet this week that I liked, because he said something in the form of, nowadays, if you go to a home broadcast, all these broadcasters are going to just basically be pumping up your own team. You know, you're going to be doing that. You go to like these ESPN or the other ones, it's like usually a lot of these guys are liking their former players and ripping on everybody else. At least with kind of this crew, like it's kind of at least honest, like one way or the other. I might not always agree with what they say, but I kind of like, at least it's different and it's not just the same like kind of BS every week. So I don't know. Are the young players just being too sensitive? Or these guys just being too harsh? Case, what do you think?
I think it's a combination. I think the old players are a little salty sometimes about the cash that
Contracts.
maybe the contracts. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. The league, I mean, I think it was like when the Warriors, maybe a year or two before they went on their actually like dynastic run, they're like, jump shooting teams can't win titles. Well, that kind of went out the window. I think every team's a jump shooting team now. I mean, Nikola Jokic is leading the league in assists, and he's a 7-footer. So, I mean, the league's just evolved. It's changing. And that interview, and I watched actually that halftime when they were talking about it. I just watched the video, the link that you sent me this morning. But at halftime, they're saying, could it be take that leap from an all-star to a superstar and lead his team to a championship? You know, and they're saying he only does one good thing really well, and that's score. He doesn't change the game rebounding or passing. And I was like, that's kind of harsh, man. I mean, he does more than that. Granted, his best asset is scoring, but when it comes down to it, I mean, he's still a young kid, man. It's like he's still coming into his prime. So I think, yeah, the sensitivity level is a little higher than it used to be, just because we're in 2021. There's a lot of, you say something a little explicit, it's going to go Twitter.
People get offended easier.
Go crazy with it. Spin words, you know, until you actually, like, some people, like, we're such in a microwave era now. We'll listen to like a 2-minute interview and be like, oh, like Damian Lillard, like, was ripping on Steph Curry about, you know, how he's not getting shots. And it's like, well, if you actually listen to the whole interview, that's not what it was. So I think if you actually kind of do it in totality, I think veteran NBA players kind of see that kind of softness that they weren't able, like, there's no hand checking. The rules are a lot different. You can get away with a lot more. So they used to bring it every single day. I think that's the one thing that they get irritated. Like, you know, the DMPs, I'm taking a day off because it's a back-to-back, or, you know, they didn't have that luxury of doing that. So I think that's where the bitterness comes in.
T?
I think the players are super sensitive, and I thought it was a fair question. Like, maybe it's a tough question to ask, but that's what I want my reporters to do, is ask tough questions. Like, is he going to become a superstar? I don't think he will. Like, I think we talked about it on when he was playing the Nuggets, like in the playoffs. I was like, I don't see a jump from like 23 points, 24 points to 30, or like being a guy who can carry his team like a Steph or a KD or LeBron or Dwayne Wade back a couple years ago. I just don't. So I don't think it was like an unfair question. Maybe the way he phrased it, and like it's hard. Like his response. What?
Like he's hating on him or something?
Yeah, like, but I don't even think he was. He wanted to hear his response. Like, yeah, I will become a better, like, take another step. It wasn't like he said, I don't think you can. He said,
I think partially that
like,
comes from his history.
Are you gonna take another step or something?
And he ripped on Rudy Gobert. I think with the Jazz, it's a little bit more too, because he ripped on Rudy. He's been hard on Rudy Gobert too, about $200 million. He's like $200 million for Gobert. So obviously he's very salty about it. I always kind of think of it like old people in general. I remember playing golf at 10, and old people were salty. I remember going to the golf course, and those people were salty all the time if you were playing slow. I remember my grandparents all the time saying this generation didn't know anything about that generation. Our generation worked much harder, and they were harder people. This generation is going to do the same thing with old people. The next generation is going to do the same thing. That's just how life works. It always cracks me up, because that's what happens as you get older. You're harsher. It's just the way it goes.
You always think the younger generation has it better than you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it always cracks me up, these arguments, because, like, just look at life. It's the same thing. Over time, it's never going to change. There's going to be Draymond Green 40 years ago saying, oh, man, these guys have no idea what it took. Our league was way more physical. It's like, no, it was. You know, so that's just the way it's going to happen. I don't know. I thought it was funny, though. I appreciate the guys, like you said, Tyler, at least asking the hard questions and not just being so, like, what's the word I'm looking for? So so like
You don't want to coddle.
so networky. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't want to coddle them and be like, hey, you had a great game. Like, what's it like to be the best player on your team and all this? It's like, nah, you want to. That's how you get. Those are good reporters. I love the TNT crew. I love the bluntness and honestness, and that's what happens when you get three strong personalities on the same set. So I love it. It's great entertainment. I didn't mean like I don't want them to ask those questions. I just think sometimes when players nowadays
they're too sensitive.
It's a different world. Yeah, it is too sensitive.
But I don't think it is a different world. That's my point. Is I think it's the same world. I think people just always forget it. It's like, my generation, they're always gonna rip on this one, and you're always gonna be slightly offended by it. That's just how I'm taking it. But I hear you. Like, I just think the same thing's gonna happen.
I mean, a different world in how you're allowed to play the game. Now there's no hand checking. Like you could be able to like running lariats to people, like spear people, like shove them in the back, and now it's like you hit someone in the face, like Damian Lee the other day, like came across and hit him in the face, like didn't mean to, and it's a flagrant 2 and he's ejected. Draymond Green says "fuck you" the Wiseman, and then he's ejected.
Very good, and that leads to our next transition: the Warriors this week, and the softness of the officials. And he gets ejected for yelling at Wiseman this week for that. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in the world. Like but that's the problem with Draymond. You know what I mean? He just kind of has a tendency to like go off on teammates, and people can't read him, and he ends up getting a technical and hurting the team that week. You guys watched a little bit of the Warriors this week. They didn't have the best week in the world. The only thing to me that stood out the most is Curry breaking the record, or getting behind Miller yesterday, getting in front of him. So now he's second all time on 3-pointers. We kind of all knew it was going to happen. Draymond getting ejected to me was the other big news of the week. So anything stand out to you guys the Warriors this week? The other thing obviously was them beating the Lakers Sunday night, but that kind of feels like a far cry from now.
I mean, if it was anyone but Draymond, I'd feel bad for how it was handled and say it was terrible, but it just always happens to Draymond. So like you're putting it on yourself.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's a bad call. He shouldn't have got technical, but like you act this way all the time and negative.
It's annoying.
Officials all the time. They're like, you're gonna have a short leash. And they're going to assume you're talking to them a lot of the time.
Kevin Garnett would be in the same situation as Draymond. Like, they just start saying F-bombs and cussing left and right. They just think they're cussing at him. Like, they're kind of Wiseman, like, you can tell, like, Draymond, like, he's definitely the guy, man. He is picking on him. Like, he's going at him like almost every game.
He's riding him like Seabiscuit right now. He's just like, I saw the play and I knew what has happened. He dumped it in the Wiseman, and he basically didn't seal his man, and Wiseman kind of was like, I was going to go back door, basically. That was the gist of what I got of it. And then they're running back, and Draymond was like, fuck that. And then the official was like, you're out of here. And I was just like, oh, man. What? I was like, of course, Draymond is just yelling and ripping into this rookie. I was like, man, he's on your team. There's one point in the test him in practice, but I was like, man, it's like us playing rec league, like at a YMCA, like, but now it's so quiet. Like, I had the TV up so high, I heard that clear as day. I was like, oh man. But the softness though, like Kelly Oubre getting the technical for blowing a kiss after making it, like, I'm just sick and tired of these weak ass technicals. I can't deal with it anymore.
I'd be happy. I didn't want that guy blowing a kiss at me. Give him a technical. I don't.
First off, why is Kelly Oubre blowing kisses after making a 3-pointer?
I have no idea. Like, he should. Why are you taking 8 3-pointers still in game, Kelly? That's my thing to you. Like, stop shooting. Just drive, man. What are you doing? I'm okay with you shooting like 2 just to keep the defense honest, but my gosh, man, stop shooting 3 so much. Yeah, that was kind of funny. The Draymond thing this week that stood out. I didn't think they were winning that game anyways. They were playing pretty bad defensively that whole game, and then they played pretty horrible last night as well. I'd say being down 30 at halftime is never a good thing. So they lost to the Jazz yesterday, so their week is off to a horrible start. Last question for NBA this week. I was just curious because, like I said, I'm always kind of watching. We're all kind of watching some of the different games. And they happen to play the Warriors this week is the Knicks. They kind of seem to be the surprise team to me. Like, there's some guys, they play like really hard, and there's some like good defensive players on their team. Barrett seems to be kind of getting it together. The only thing with the Warriors that was frustrating is like he's left-handed, right? Like you might want to make him go right just once in a while. It just felt like they were letting him go left every single time. And the player that stood out to me this year so far, guys, has been Randall. He's actually really gotten pretty good. Like, I'm not saying like he could be the best player on a team, but like his offensive game is actually pretty solid. Julius Randle, like, I don't know, I kind of would like him like as a fourth best. Like, he would really take another team to the top. I feel like if he was like the fourth best player on a team or something like that. So I don't know. And the Cavs beat the Nets twice this week. I thought that was kind of interesting. Go ahead.
I think that'd be like Julius Randle would take that as a backhanded compliment. You have to be the fourth best player for this team to be good. Like,
yeah,
how good are you if you have to be the fourth best player to be good? Like,
well, I like his game enough.
Numbers as the fourth best player, right?
I don't know. I think if he could fit into a system, he could. I feel like his game is kind of more like could fit into a system. That's kind of why I say that. Yeah, he's kind of more like he's kind of more like a filler of a spot. Like, I don't feel like he just needs the ball all the time.
Yeah,
I feel like he can kind of make plays without it.
The one guy that's playing unreal this like years, I mean, besides Jokic, is Embiid's. Like, I don't know what happened, but he's just like,
he had a baby. He's motivated.
Man, yeah, he's playing monstrous. I watched him against the Celtics, and I was just like, Jesus, man, this guy's just going to town. I was just like, and I love that part where Marcus Smart was talking after the game. He was like, yeah, he's flopping. I was like, don't get me started. I was like, you're not the one that's supposed to be calling people out here, dude. It's like, we've seen about a montage of like 2-minute flops of Marcus Smart. So.
Oh my gosh. The Embiid calls a good one. Jackie McMullen said that she thought the reason that he's having such a monster year is because I guess after the last season he called her or something like that and was like, he was left off with the all NBA teams. I guess he was like super pissed off about it. So I guess that kind of made him want to like just go at it a little bit more next year. But like, we always knew he had it, just stay healthy and like be able to run more than 24 minutes. And like, you might be able to be you might be pretty good. And so like, he's finally like in shape and he's playing more pissed off. And I mean, when you're the biggest man on the court and the best footwork and have touch like that, it's like, you should be demanding a double team every single time, like by the hoop, especially when so that's a good call with him. So the other team I kind of wanted to point out too is the Jazz. They're actually on fire right now. They have one of the best records. They're clicking on all cylinders, and it kind of makes sense because they've kind of kept their core together for so long. It feels like they should eventually have a year like this where they kind of go even more. And Gobert's, he's better. He is. I've watched him a little bit more. Like he's still kind of. I'm not sure how that translates to the playoffs yet, but like he definitely feels a little bit better. Like just in some of his like offensive rebounding, like he's playing a little bit more within himself and not asking for stupid post-ups and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think that's kind of like the big surprise for me as well. Is like, don't ask for post-ups if you can't post up. I don't like Dwight Howard. That was my always issue. Like, no, you don't want 8 touches in the post. You suck. Like, you don't want that. That's horrible offense, man. Like, just let me be a point guard and pick and roll me and I'll get you a layup. Just stop. You know what I mean? Like, didn't you ever feel that with guys that you played rec league with, that like they wanted the ball, right? And you knew that you had to give it to them just because you wanted them to do other things for you, right? Case is like the boy, and you're like, no, I don't want Tom. I don't want you the ball in the post, but I just want to keep you happy. So we'll give you that. They take some crappy jump hook, and you're like, yep, that's what I
thought. One of my favorite times playing basketball with my buddy Tim, and this is at our gym, our local gym, and we had these 2 guys. We'd never play with them. They've been on our team for like 5 games. We play like a 10-game season, and me and Tim were pretty good ballers at the time. Could shoot the tray, had a nice off-game dribble. And these guys were like,
thank you for the scouting report.
They're like, we're not getting the ball. Like, you're not letting us shoot. So we're like, all right, well, let's see what you got. Literally did what like you would do if you're like, you want to see how good. We didn't shoot for like 30 straight possessions, and they had like 4 points. Just like, this is why you're not getting the ball, because you're doing shots that are going over the backboard. You're doing layups that aren't even like closed. Like, I was just like, all right.
You guys went Kobe? You went Kobe Bryant on him?
Instead of freezing
said, okay,
fine.
I'm not going to play. I'm going to give you the ball.
We did that to Brian Johnson every once in a while.
Yeah, we would do it to Brian. That's an Adam strategy as well. So that's always a good one in there too. So NBA this week, there's a hope for the Warriors. Yeah, we got to call everybody out. That's how we all play at times. So if we did do it to Brian, we would want to see his offensive game at times. We wanted to see that baby left hook and
the no look jump shot.
That is still the best shot of all time, no doubt about it. All right, gentlemen, that's NBA this week. Brian's look away shot. What's better, the Fatboy FadeAway, the look away shot? I mean, there's gotta be some other ones in there that are pretty good. All right, that's NBA this week. Tyler, let's get into your take this week. We had some bad news with ton of players in MLB passing away. Tommy Lasorda, you had Tom Seaver not that long ago. So I know you wanted to have your take this week on Hank Aaron. So the floor is yours, my friend.
He just lost the legend of all legends when it comes to baseball. Like, people know his numbers more than they know the actual records of home runs now. And just the way he went about his business throughout his whole life. He never had anything bad to say about like how he was treated, even though you knew he was treated like crap, which might be actually a flaw now looking back on it. He should have spoke up maybe more, but
yeah, but in those times it was hard.
Yeah, he couldn't back then. But I'm saying
he had to do it with his bat. Yeah,
and he always had nothing but good things to say about Barry, even though he probably had something. He's thinking some way about him as well. Like,
he stole his awards.
Stole everything from him basically, except his like dignity and who he is as a human.
Yeah, that's what you kind of hear about Hank Aaron the most, huh? Is that dignity part?
His humanitarian work and like how no one has anything bad to say about him. It just seems like it's a tough loss for the baseball community and the ambassadors and whatnot.
It kind of makes me think with him, like, obviously, I don't know if you saw this tweet. Did you see the tweet I had about his old scout record?
Yeah,
was that cool?
Made me laugh at a weird, like, sick, like, I don't want to laugh at this, but
I was laughing. I was kind of telling my dad about it. I sent it to him, and I was like, there's a couple things that cracked me up about it. That scouting report is almost like something I would have got, like, for Little League tryouts, like something like that, like arm, good, bat, or I love how his power was fair. And like, they're very good. And I like how the scout's name, this is like in the South in Mobile, Alabama. The guy's name was Billy Southworth. That was the scout's name. I could just see like some big fat white guy with like hair smoking a cigar. Like, that's literally how I see like this guy scouting. I'm like he did at least right at the end with his scouting report. I did notice the very last word was, this guy needs a bonus. So he did like at least recognize he had good talent in that regard. The thing that did make me puke, and we talked about from a racial standpoint, was like the nationality was Negro. I was like, are you kidding me how far back we were at that stuff? It's like, so that's what I kind of meant with slight and bold. At least we're not doing like garbage. Like, I don't know, just that kind of like stuff kind of made me a little weird when I read it. But it just made me think of like nowadays, there's probably like a 10-page book on one player, right? Like this is what he hits. This is his analytics. And that was just like, here's his scouting report.
His
like,
swing
so
plane
simple.
is at 23 degrees. And
yes, exactly. All this like random stuff. So I want to give 5 facts here about him that I thought were kind of cool looking it up about him.
Real quick. Do you guys know the home run record now? Like, we all know 755 was. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I know the record now.
Do you, Casey?
What's that, bud?
The home run record.
Do I know it?
Yeah.
Like the
Bonds' career home run record.
Putting him on the spot. I like it.
Well, I asked you. You said you knew. Now you're looking it up.
Me?
No, I'm not.
No, him.
No,
I'm
I
not
think
looking
it's
it up. I have a number in my head.
756.
Well, I broke it.
No, I think I'm going to say 768.
2.
I was off by 6. All right, 762. Nicely done.
Well, it's
that's
not real,
crazy
so
that,
it doesn't
everyone
count.
knows 755. And like,
yeah. No,
I
maybe
just
some
remember
bonds.
mine were 714 and 715. Those are the numbers.
Because those are the big ones. And that's your point, right, Tyler?
Yeah, exactly. That was my point. Like, no one cares about a home run record now.
Because it was fake. That's kind of
fake. You still hit them. These guys were all on amphetamines and greenies. Like, let's be like, they were taking stuff that wasn't allowed now.
So do you guys still count Maris's record as the record holder?
No. I mean, there's so many different records. I consider Luis Gonzalez is the most pure. So at 56, I think.
More than Roger?
Yeah, more than Roger. No, I think a lot of the baseball awards unfortunately got tampered. I think that's why people look at the old records more, because the reality is they were on steroids. So the records aren't going to fall, but as people that were actually watching the game during that era, it's like hard to not say like, Oh, Sammy Sosa had 360 home run seasons, and nobody, it's like, it's kind of hard to ignore it. Let me get back to Hank Aaron though real quick and give these five numbers before we get out of here, just because they're just crazy stats. 21-time All-Star. He was an All-Star from 55 to 74. So 21 straight years he was an All-Star. His best season was 344. He has 3,000 or no, excuse me, I said that wrong. He has 344 home run seasons. That's what I meant. So I put it wrong. So 344 run home seasons. The reason I want that stat to be is he never had like a 60 home run season or a 50 home run season. He just kind of progressively always hit a ton of home runs. He has 3,771 hits. I didn't realize he had the third most ever. So he's up there too. That's crazy. He has third most hits. He has the most bases, which is pretty important if you know baseball. You always want to have the most bases. That means you're pretty good. I thought that was Ricky Henderson's record. It's actually his at 6,856. He's 700 ahead of the next closest guy, which is Sam Musial. So that obviously plays his longevity. And then, like you said, just being an obviously all-around good player. And then his 20 and 20, he has 20 in 15 seasons. He's hit 20 or more home runs. And in 8 seasons, he had 30 home runs. So that's to his credit of, like I said, he just kind of chipped away a little bit over the time. It just shows you how like consistent a player was. And I don't have the stat, but looking at it, I want to say he really only had one season where it looked like he was actually hurt. So he didn't necessarily have a Cal Ripken type career where he didn't miss any games, but like he was there. So let's just put it that way. He played in like
looking at those, hearing those numbers, it's almost like he's underappreciated because no one ever mentions him as like the greatest player of all time, and those numbers would indicate he's right there.
I think that goes back to our society when you don't win sometimes those championships, or you like play for a team. And he played for like Milwaukee and Atlanta. Those aren't like you know what I mean? Like this seems like those franchises always kind of get like pushed on. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's that area or something like that. They just don't have a lot of hype with those teams. Like the Atlanta Hawks, it's just like, all right, it's like, so I don't know. Maybe that's part of it as well. So real quick, and then we'll get on this last one. Now with Hank Aaron passing, it kind of made me think, who are some of the next like Major League Baseball ambassadors? I mean, Willie Mays, we know, and all like the older guys are still that are alive, obviously, but kind of like a little bit older than us. The guys are like 20 years older than us, 15 years older than us. Who's going to be like that? Those guys like the Hank Aarons and the Willie Mays. Do you have anybody that you think will be able to like be kind of legendary like those guys were? Casey, you got somebody?
I don't know if I ever reached that status or that stature, but I mean, one guy that comes to mind, if he wants to do it, he could probably do it, would be Ken Griffey Jr. I think he would be. He's never been any headlines for anything stupid. He's always been
no roids.
Like a class act when it comes to baseball. Clean record. His dad played, so that he's got familiarity with like the times before. Not that way back, but at least the appreciation of the game. But it's hard because baseball really doesn't do a good job of letting their star players like be known. Like a lot of these guys, you have to look up. Like you mentioned Stan Musial. If you did our age, like most people would be like, "Who the hell is Stan Musial?" Like I know who it is, but I mean, to the common fan, they probably don't. But I don't know.
Play back in like the 40s, so like I don't expect people to know who Stan Musial is. Like,
but
do your research, kids. Come on.
I mean, they went NBA play
stuff. Let's go.
It's tough.
Like even Tommy Lasorda, Don Sutton. Like we know these guys. I mean, we used to like.
I mean, Don's perm. I saw that. That was incredible this week. Don Sutton's perm. Did you see that this week? That white fro that he had. I mean, if you had that, you got to rock that bad boy all the time. That thing was unbelievable. Sorry, go ahead. I had to point that out.
I mean, if you guys got another one, I'll let you go. I mean, I got my flow going here today.
You got yours as well. So not quite. You should go to the barber and get a perm on that thing. We'll see what you look like. I like the Griffey one too. Obviously Bonds would be a good one because he took over Hank Aaron, but he did steroids, and he's not the kindest human being in the world, it seems like. So Tyler, you got somebody?
Yeah, I think
you're right.
It's not going to be Bonds. I think like
he rides
John Smoltz is going to be a good ambassador. It's going to be regional. I think each, like, out here we had Willie Mays and Tommy Lasorda. And, like, I don't think on the East Coast they really gave a hoot. Or they knew who they were, but they didn't, like, they had Joe Torre and.
So you don't think there will be a players like there's like with Willie Mays and Hank Aaron now, like where there's kind of like these guys that the whole country knows as like these great baseball players that can that like.
I mean, they'll know that. Like, I think
that's what I'm saying. Like,
what you just described, then yeah, Barry Bonds will be in that, like where he was a great baseball player.
Yeah, but I don't think the fans are going to look at him as like the great player. I think the Griffies of the world and the Smoltzes. I could see Smoltz. I mean, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Is Smoltz in the Hall of Fame yet? Or he's not. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
So the guys I thought were like kind of because, like you said, they're kind of on TV. Yeah, Maddox. But to me, those are the great players. But they're the guys I had down was like a Pedro. I feel like Pedro has the personality, and I could see him kind of being out in the scene a little bit. And he's from Boston, and he has won World Series. I also have Ken Griffey Jr. on there as well if he wanted to, and then I think Frank Thomas also be somebody that we kind of start to look at in that same area as like a great player, and just as he gets older and stuff.
One guy I kind of thought about it. He's got the personality for it, and I always loved him as a player. I think David Ortiz maybe has a chance to do that.
Yeah, he does. But when I say it, because you guys keep saying personality, just to make it clear what I meant by I know, but what I meant by personality is more so not to where like he's out there promoting the game, just kind of as like a fan base. You kind of look at these players as like great all-time players. Kind of like the Hank Aarons are so appreciated. Like, is there going to be anybody from our generation that you can kind of see these kids like, oh, let me look up Hank Aaron. He actually died, and it'll be all over the news about this guy dying, like specifically. And so that's kind of what I was like. I think Griffey's good because he 99.9% of the people voted for him to get the Hall of Fame. So I think those are the type of players I could see, and like, I could see like a Smoltz like embracing the game. But
Jeter will be one of those guys then.
Oh, I purposely didn't want to say him.
Well, I mean, he's going to be one. Like, whether you like him or not, he's going to be one.
I was purposely trying to leave him off, and then you had to throw that son of a bitch in there.
When he dies, the world's going to stop.
Oh, Peter, no.
And I think the way you described it, Barry Bonds is beloved out here. Like, he's going to be one of the guys that, out here especially. In California.
Yeah, out here he will be around the league. They'll be throwing syringes into the gravesite still. These assholes, they won't let it go. They're just gonna keep going at it forever. Poor Barry Bonds, he's never gonna live that down, and it just doesn't help that he wasn't the nicest guy in the world. So that especially people are not gonna let it down now. All right, I'm glad we got a little MLB talk in there. I'm glad we were able to talk about Hank Aaron too a little bit. But yeah, man, a lot of guys pass away for sure in the game. Tommy Lasorda, the other one too. I know around here, being a Giants fan, he used to piss off a lot of Giants fans. He was kind of made the rivalry good from the Dodgers side. So that one as well.
My favorite All-Star moments is when he's coaching third and he gets knocked over the bat, and Barry comes running out with the chest protector.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He put the chest protector on him on the line. And then I think after that rule, I think that was like part of the rule. They changed it to where the base coaches have to wear a helmet too. Wasn't it part of the reason too? They changed that as well.
Part of that?
Tommy Lasorda, always reaping change there, the big man. All right, guys, that was a good podcast this week. Stay warm, go get warm, enjoy the games.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. So yeah, all right, guys. We'll see you next week. Enjoy it. Take it easy. Peace.